Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new, my name is Christina Gisele. I'm currently a mom to a 3-year-old toddler girl, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I knew I was pregnant before I got my period. So for me, my journey to conceive took me almost a year, and I know there were times where I possibly thought I could have been pregnant, but I wasn't. But this time around, I had like the strongest, not only intuition, but symptoms that really made me feel that I possibly could have been pregnant before I got my missed period. And as someone who was trying to conceive for almost a year, I know how impatient we can be to find out when you just want that baby and you just want to see that positive line on a test. So let me get into the symptoms of how I knew I was pregnant before I got my missed period, and maybe this can give you some ideas too so that you can get happy and excited just like I did. Let me get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that was a tell sign on me being pregnant before I got my missed period was implantation bleeding. Now, this is definitely something that people talk about that I never really understood until I was trying for a really long time. And let me just say that I made a video about like my journey on trying to create a baby and the process that it took me. So when this happened and I felt the implantation bleeding, at some point I was like, maybe it's just my period. But I also had to immediately Google if that was possible. So one of the things that implantation bleeding is you getting like spotting and cramp. And now the spotting isn't like a period blood, it's more like a dark brown, possibly thick, not too heavy, kind of light type of spotting on like a pad. Like it can't soak your pad, and it's not like a crimson really bright red, it's more like a rusty brown kind of blood that you get. So when I got it, I've known that like in the past I've had like that type of color period, but what it did say on Google was that it's a type of bleeding that only occurs for like 1 to 2 days, I think 3 days max. So when I started feeling like kind of like a soft type of cramping, like your period was coming but you weren't getting like that period blood so fast, when I knew that was happening, I immediately was like, all right, I'm not gonna get too excited, but like maybe this is implantation bleeding. So when it ended within like, I think it was like 2.5 days after it ended, I was like, oh my God, I could have just created a baby. I'm gonna wait patiently, but fingers crossed, I hope this happened. And that was one of the symptoms that made me believe that I could be pregnant before I even got my missed period. Okay, so the next thing that made me believe or think that I was having symptoms that possibly could be me being pregnant was I was extremely tired. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a toddler mom, so I'm tired a lot, but out of nowhere, I was just like exhausted. Like I wanted to take a nap, and I'm not a nap type of person. So to me, feeling that way, I was just like, all right, this could be like a sign because I'm never really this tired. And it definitely made me feel like it could be happening and was one of the symptoms experienced before I got my missed period. Okay, so the next thing that made me think that I possibly could have been pregnant before my missed period was getting food aversion. So I am not really that much of a picky eater, if you ask me, and I know what I like and I know what I don't like. So immediately after I had like this implantation bleeding and around the time I was tired, I started getting like food aversions. Certain things just were not like something I wanted to have. An example would be chicken. I usually like to eat a lot of chicken, and I just couldn't even really eat it, let alone like when I marinated like meats or chicken. It just really made me feel like not good. Like I couldn't eat it. And I started eating like really small type of meals compared to like me eating like a whole plate of how I usually eat. I was eating a lot less. So that was definitely like a tell sign, because I've heard that happened before. That never happened to me. Like when I was pregnant with her, I never had food aversion. So this time, they say like every pregnancy is different. So it definitely made me feel like maybe I possibly could be pregnant, and they had to continue to wait and see. Okay, so the next thing that made me possibly believe that I could be pregnant before my period was I was discharging a lot. I normally don't really pay attention to that type of stuff, but when it happens a lot, it's definitely something I notice. And I do wear like panty liners, so I do notice things like that. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. I'm like discharging a lot. It's not something that's normal. It's kind of gooey. It just wasn't something that was common for me, and texture and like how frequent it was happening. So I was like, all right, this kind of happened after like the implantation bleeding during that 2-week wait. And I was like, this possibly could mean like a tell sign that I am pregnant. I don't know, but it definitely was something that had me again, something else to add to, could this actually really be happening? The next thing that made me believe that I possibly could be pregnant was I was getting really, really bad headache. I'm not somebody who gets a lot of headaches unless I'm like, you know, really, really dehydrated or been in the sun all day. But I was getting like headaches that would last like 2 days, 3 days max. And I purposely didn't really want to take like medicine because I feel like when I'm trying to get pregnant, I try to steer away from things that, you know, wouldn't be good for a baby. So this was like something that it was like days that I wasn't dehydrated and I wasn't like in the sun outside a lot. I just was getting like extreme headaches, and I feel like it was because my hormones were changing and I was like creating a baby inside me, and because of that it was bringing increased, I guess, like blood flow to my head, whatever it is. But I definitely started getting headaches more frequently, and it's something that even till now, like I get headaches and I get it for like more than 1 day and it's like really bad. So that's definitely a sign that you could be pregnant before your missed period. So the next thing that made me feel like I possibly could be pregnant, or that you might feel that you could possibly be pregnant too, is I was extremely emotional. Now normally am I an emotional person? I mean, kinda. If I watch like a sad movie or something, I'll get emotional, but I was like extremely emotional. Like anything and everything could make me cry. If like my husband said something to me like the wrong way, I could cry. If I hurt myself, like if I hit my like elbow somewhere, I could cry. If I felt like super overwhelmed by my daughter just being like a toddler and in her like crazy mode, it made me cry. And I was never really like that before that. So I was just like, okay, again, with the hormones, like something's happening. I feel like something is changing. I had like that intuition, but I just didn't want to get too excited and get my hopes up. But definitely something for me that was, and something that could be for you, a sign that you possibly could be pregnant. So the next thing that adds on to being emotional was, not only was I emotional, I was extremely moody. Oh my god, you couldn't tell me anything. Like if I told my husband to like take out the garbage and he said it the wrong way, like I could easily like just like snap. And I'm not normally like that if you ask me. I don't know about if you ask him, but I just like super moody and things like got to me, and I was very like aggravated easily. And just like the way I was like speaking to my husband, I just like was changing, and I was just like, all right, for that I was like, either I'm pregnant or I'm getting my period. It's definitely something. But I definitely noticed that I was extremely moody and like irritable. And I think that was definitely a sign for me, knowing that I possibly could have been pregnant. So if you're feeling that way too, I mean, it could be you getting your period, or it really could be that you're pregnant too. The next thing that made me feel like it was a sign that I possibly could have been pregnant before my missed period was feeling dizzy. So I would lay down and out of nowhere, I would just feel really dizzy and lightheaded, and that's never like happened to me before. I would be playing with like my daughter in her playroom and go on the floor, or if I lay on the bed and like got up really fast, I would feel dizzy. And yeah, that could be like a sign of something else. I never really used to feel that way, so I started feeling like, all right, another thing that possibly could be a sign. And that is the thing about all these symptoms and signs that you could be pregnant. These symptoms are things that you don't normally feel when you're not pregnant. So all these symptoms were like, to me, signs that I possibly could be. So that's definitely something else that you should pay attention to and possibly think about, whether you feel dizzy or lightheaded. That could be a sign that you're feeling pregnant or could be pregnant. All right, love, so those are all my symptoms and signs of things that made me feel that I possibly could be pregnant before my missed period. So I know how hard it is to like have all these feelings and thoughts of impatientness and like wanting to just know whether you're pregnant or not. This 2-week wait for me was just like, oh my god, like I just want to know. And it's a hard time, but it's also an exciting time. So I hope these symptoms for me could possibly be symptoms that you're having too, that can give you like a little bit of like a good feeling of knowing that you possibly could be pregnant too. And then when you get your missed period, you can definitely find out and know. And just so you know, after I felt all these symptoms and I waited those 2 weeks, because I just didn't want to get too excited and take that test before the 2-week wait like some people do, because I just didn't want to get like a false positive or anything like that. I believe I waited exactly, I think it was like 3 days after my missed period. Some say to wait after 5, but for me it was after 3, and that is when I found out I was pregnant and got to find out that all these symptoms and signs were absolutely true, and I had that like mother instinct and knew that I was pregnant too. So I hope that you're able to get that good news as well. And if you're not, remember that you just have to keep trying and keep the faith and stay positive and don't put too much pressure on yourself. So I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, because I'll be sharing more motherhood journey videos just like this and sharing with you guys all the things that you're probably going through too or just want to learn and know about. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, loves.